Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. &Juliet is the award-winning coming-of-age stage musical featuring the music of Swedish pop songwriter Max Martin with a book by David West Reed. The story focuses on a what-if scenario where Juliet does not die at the end of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. It continues to be one of the West End's most successful musicals, and now a new North American production is now playing in Toronto and will transfer to Broadway's Stephen Sondheim Theatre, with previews beginning on October 28th and will open on November 17th. And my guests are two of the show's stars. Please welcome Betsy Wolfe and Stark Sands.
Hi.
Hi.
I love this. First of all, how are the two of you and where are you? Betsy, I'll start with you.
I am doing great. We opened last week, so we now have our days free so I can enjoy my family. I can enjoy Toronto. We are in Toronto, and I'm currently in my apartment in Toronto.
I love it. Stark, I love your wallpaper.
Thank you. I can't take credit for the wallpaper. My family has been visiting for a few weeks, and with my wife and both kids, we needed a little more space. So we rented a vacation rental here in Toronto. And yes, I'm very fond of my, chickens in frames wallpaper in our dining area.
I love it. Well, first of all, how excited are the two of you to be in Toronto and doing &Juliet? Betsy.
I read the script in October of 2021 and knew I had to be a part of this show, like hands down. And there have been very few pieces where I read something so quickly and just could not wait to get my hands on this. So the fact that it's finally here, the fact that we just announced Broadway last week, I am ecstatic.
Stark, for you.
I'm thrilled. The fact that this is the first big thing that I've been able to do, like in a large theater since the pandemic, and the fact that it is just a beautiful expression of joy shared between the audience and the company on stage. It's a really lovely way back in for people who've missed doing this and viewing this.
Because I spoke to both of you during the pandemic on Zoom and StreamYard, and I was like, what has it been like being back in a rehearsal room for a big musical with people, like people you create with all over again? Betsy.
It's joyous. It's exactly what Stark said. I mean, we've all collectively taken this this time that has looked so different. And as we've started coming back, I think it was, for me especially, it was just so important to, I realized, time is not guaranteed and our storytelling is not guaranteed. And the ability to tell this story right now and have this be one of the first things that we do since really coming back is just, I pinch myself every day when I get to be on stage with the people that I get to be on stage with. Stark very much included in that. And I just, just so grateful. It really is all the things. Yeah. I wish I had like one complaint for you.
My main observation coming into the rehearsal room for this was that all of a sudden, suddenly, me and Betsy, I think you can say this too, we are the most experienced people in the room. And I just am like, what? How did that happen? How did I become like a veteran at this? Because there's all these kids and they are phenomenal. And I am in awe of every single person in this cast for what they individually bring to this experience. And it really makes you want to raise your game and meet them where they are. The creative team and the casting team did a very specific, intentional job of casting this, as evidenced by the fact that Betsy was cast back in like October, November, and I was cast at the very end of the process in like April before we started rehearsals later that month in April. They really wanted to make sure they had every single role, the person that they wanted, and they just kept waiting until they found that person. And I'm so grateful that that person became me in the end.
I just saw the cast page of everybody. I mean, there are so many incredible, the cast is so diverse. It's so beautifully cast. Like I was telling Stark before we went on, I saw &Juliet in London right before the pandemic, like in December. I was there for 2 days in London doing a press junket. And I was like, I have one night to see a show. And I'm like, I'm going to see &Juliet at the Shaftesbury Theater. And the show totally blew my mind. It was so fresh, so inventive. And I was like, you know, I was brought up on cast albums, but I'm like, I know all these pop songs. You know, it's just such a wonderful, wonderful musical. So I want to ask the two of you, you just had your incredible opening night. I mean, what was that like and how magical was that day for each of you? Betsy.
I mean, it's all the things, right? It's just the culmination of, like Stark was saying, like from the very first day in the rehearsal room and getting to do this again. And it has been a while since I've done an actual show. You know, not only was there a pandemic, I also had a child. So for some of us, and for many of us, it's been 4 or 5 years since we've been doing something that we feel so called to do. And then for many of the cast members, it will be the first thing they've ever done. So it's, and I think that experience that we are having on stage, I also believe very much replicates the experience an audience has. They all come to the theater with completely different understandings. Some of them don't know these songs. They think they don't know the songs. Some of them are like, how, you know, am I really going to be touched by this? It's a jukebox musical. And I think everyone leaves incredibly moved in some way and surprised in a way that they were not expecting. I think it's hard to kind of bottle this show up in a nutshell and say, like, what is this show about? I think it's almost impossible to describe. I think something that I love doing is, because there's a little bit of a show within a show concept, Stark and I have the ability to use the audience and play to the audience a bit. And I will tell you, there are some very reserved faces at the very beginning, like, I don't like jukebox musicals. I don't like this. How good could this be? And by the end, to see them standing up on their feet or wiping away tears, and all ages, it's nuts. I can honestly say I've never been part of a show where it really, really takes you off guard and catches you. And I think that's something to celebrate now.
Yeah. The opening night was as beautiful and big and, you know, amazing as it always is. But Betsy mentioned something that got me thinking, you know, the fact that we have so many young people in this group and people who will be making their Broadway debut, a lot of them, some of them making their professional theater debut. The fact that Betsy and I have done this before and have been, you know, and have experienced this, we know what it is, but the energy that was coming off of those younger people in our cast was really infectious, and it really keeps you grounded and keeps you like excited about it. And it was so much, it's going to be so much fun throughout this whole experience to watch what happens. Because I'm not just talking about ensemble members, that we have principal roles who are like kind of like fresh out of school. And we are going to be the ones to sort of hold their hands through this process. And whatever happens, we're going to be there and have a front row seat to see how this changes their lives. And it's really exciting.
Yeah. It's such an incredible show because it just gets bigger and bigger. It's theatrical magic. I mean, as they move through, it's just, anybody who wants to see a fabulous show has got to buy a ticket to &Juliet. It's so clever. We'll talk about what, you know, the creatives, but I want to talk about who you each play. Betsy, tell us who you play and what you love about her already.
So I play Anne Hathaway. And of course, in all the previews, it's like, no, not that one. And Anne Hathaway is William Shakespeare's wife, which we don't hear much about. We certainly don't know much about. And what I loved about reading this script was obviously David Westreed, who wrote the script, who's of Schitt's Creek fame. I absolutely love what he does with female characters too. I mean, all characters in general. But from the moment the show starts, unexpectedly, William Shakespeare is presenting his new idea for a play to the players, and they're going to get ready to do it that night. And his wife, Anne, who normally stays at home and is a mom, she comes to the theater and surprises him and is like, honey, I got a babysitter. It's my night out. Let's go. And then we quickly realize she maybe has more opinions than she's letting on in the beginning. And from there, it's this I think it's this beautiful display of almost a relationship on stage, and they become the puppet masters and obviously trying to gain control in their own ways for what they need in their own lives through then Juliet's story. And while it definitely is all fun and games, it also, I think, really, really speaks to people who are in relationships, who have been in relationships through thick and thin, and who are going through it. And so it just, the play within the play concept is so joyous to me. And then she ends up writing herself into the show, spoiler alert. And I love that all my scenes, so many of my scenes are with Stark, and we honestly have fun telling the story together. It's really, really fun.
It's really fun. So I play William Shakespeare, which is, a terrifying prospect. When when the job came and I got the job, and that's a scary thing. Knowing that this engagement was a pre-Broadway engagement and that it was intending to go, and now it's happening, that's official. The original idea of like playing this person on a Broadway stage was, potentially crippling. So I did all my research, and I'm reading my books, I'm rereading all my Shakespeare plays, and I'm learning a lot that I find now doing the show is not necessary, but I'm enjoying the sort of refresher. This version of the story, it poses this William Shakespeare as like the ultimate pop star of his time, because that's what he was. He created material, entertainment for the masses. People would go, 3,000 people would cram into the Globe every day and watch a different play that he had written or his company was performing. And that was it. That was like the thing to do in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And it was just, that was popular culture. So the fact that David West Reed had the idea to marry the Shakespeare story with the pop music of today and the pop puppet master of our world, Max Martin, it's a perfect marriage, and it makes sense. So I am just grateful to be doing this, and also grateful to take the pressure off myself of like having to do a literal, William Shakespeare on stage. That is not what I'm doing. I am chewing scenery and being ridiculous and winking at the audience nonstop. And I've never been asked to do something like this, to be someone who is funny on stage in the way that he is. And it's really freeing. It's like, there's no other way to do it but then to dive into it. And I have the best possible scene partner, because Betsy is an absolute triple, quadruple threat when it comes to, gifts on a Broadway stage. She's an incredible singer. She's an incredible dancer, and she might not admit to that, but she is. She's a beautiful actress, dramatically, and I am learning so much from watching her comedically, and her process and her bravery and her willingness to sort of mine every joke for every possible version of the laugh. And I mean, every night there's a few moments, and we have a policy where we don't single out moments for each other, because we know that only like puts a microscope on it. But there are these really wonderful moments that I get to observe, and I get to watch her like find every possible, grain of laugh, and it'll never stop. And I know that, and it just makes me really happy.
You're the best. We told each other on our last show, whatever that might be, we'll meet up and we'll just tell each other all the things that we loved, and we will need like 10 hours, because I will need a lot of time. But yes.
Yeah, totally. Oh, and then there's the pop songs of Max Martin. I mean, let's just talk about, do you have favorites? Does it change every night? Talk about some of these songs you sing, Betsy.
What's ridiculous? I think my favorite part about, well, first of all, hundreds of pop hits this man has written, and we can only include 30. So I don't even know how they decided on these 30, but the idea that you will know every single song, and you don't just like know it. You're like, oh, wow, he wrote this too. But having said that, again, I have been a part of jukebox musicals. I have seen them. There is something magical about this, that it's so seamless, and that some of them are so satisfying when you hear, because you're like, oh, I know where they're going with this. And yet some of them will completely take you off guard, because it's not done in the context of how you normally have heard the song, and not done to just be different, but done because it's integral to the storytelling. And I think that's what just really caught me off guard, is there's never a moment that you have to sit back and accept, oh, that's cute, they did this song here. Every single song actually furthers the plot. We didn't change the lyrics. It was super important that the lyrics stayed the lyrics. And then when you listen to his music, you're like, how is that possible that it's actually telling that much of a story in this song? It's just a pop song, and yet it does. This is the music I grew up listening to. And then there's songs that just came out of the radio, 4 years ago that you're like, oh, wow, I know that one too. So it's impossible not to tap your foot and want to sing along. And trust me, some people do, bless their hearts. But he's a genius. There's no other. And like Stark said, he wrote for the masses, and so did Shakespeare. So the idea that those two are together is one of the things that makes it so magical. I sing a Celine Dion song. I sing a Jessie J song. I sing part of a Kelly Clarkson song. I mean,
Sing a Kesha song.
I sing a Kesha song, everyone. I mean, it's just joyous from start to finish. Yeah.
Max, people don't know this. I didn't know this until I got this job, but in the list of people who have written the most number one hits in history, the only people who've written more number one hits than Max Martin are Lennon and McCartney for the Beatles. That's it.
One group.
That's it. So, and here's the thing. Max is still making hits, like Betsy said. Like every year he has a few number one hits. And so I wonder how long it'll take until he surpasses them. But certainly for those of us who are like in our, Betsy and our age and younger, we know this music. Even the kids who are 20 something, who weren't really around for the Britney, the Backstreet Boys, that era, they still know the songs. So a list of songs. I sing Larger Than Life, which is a Backstreet Boys song. I sing Everybody, which is a Backstreet Boys song. We sing I Want It That Way together, Betsy and I, which is a Backstreet Boys
which
song.
The audience just chews on it. They just love it so much because they know it's coming.
Yeah. There are songs, there are Kelly Clarkson songs. There are Katy Perry songs. Roar is in this. Since You've Been Gone. What Do You Want From Me? Adam Lambert, our friend Adam. We have I Can't Feel My Face by The Weeknd. We have Problem by Ariana Grande. We have, it's hard to list them all, but they're all in there. And like Betsy said, some of them that as up-tempo songs are ballads. And some of them that as ballads are up-tempo songs. And it really spins it on its head. And it's so satisfying to do. And the funny thing is that now that we're doing this, and we're going to be doing this for a while, the old versions of the songs that I knew when I was growing up and I hear on the radio and stuff, the meaning of the songs is changing and morphing into the meaning within the context of our show. One more anecdote about Max's songs. I went to Niagara Falls a couple of days ago with my family on our day off. And Niagara Falls is it's beautiful, scenic, natural wonder. And it's surrounded by this sort of like Coney Island, Carnival Barker atmosphere. So there's all these mirror mazes and, laser shows and arcades. And so there's music playing everywhere you go. And I think every third song as we walk down that boardwalk was a Max Martin song. And that says a lot. And you just can't not hear them anymore. You can't not notice it once you know.
Yeah, I just love that seeing the show. I was like, oh my God, did he write this for 앤줄리엣? And I realized because they fit so perfectly into the show. It's like, this is like the perfect musical. So clever. I asked Melanie and Paolo, your co-stars, Betsy, what favorite song do you like that Stark sings? And Stark, what's your other favorite moment in the show that Betsy sings that you're not a part of?
Well, they changed the choreo, but when we first started the show, the original choreography was in Can't Stop the Feeling, which I don't want to do too many spoiler alerts, but it might be one of the last songs in the show. And it's when kind of Anne and William have figured out the next step for themselves. And now it's just kind of a celebration of where we are. I used to stand off stage and just watch Stark sing and watch Stark dance. And it's just one of my favorite things ever. And that's the song Can't Stop the Feeling. And they recently changed it so where we even now have even more pop star moments. And but I still like that. That's still that moment. Like just because of the journey that he and I have been through, there's nothing like the start of that song for me. That's obviously one of my favorites that he does kind of without me until I kind of come in and like, I'm here too. And then I'm obsessed with this combination of the song called One More Try, which was written for the show, into this song called Problem, and then Can't Feel My Face. It's a mashup. And I have told Stark this, there's something about that sequence of songs that makes me feel alive. It makes me feel cool. Mm-hmm. It like genuinely just makes me, I'm like, yes. And every night it still really is just one of my favorites.
I love it. Stark, for you.
I agree with Betsy about that trend, those three songs. I said it last night. I was standing off stage with my castmate Philippe Arroyo, who plays Francois, and we were watching that number, and I just looked at him and I was like, I just feel cool. Why watch them? And I feel cool that I'm in a show that I'm not even in the number.
No, we're not.
I just watch it and I go, oh, this is so cool. So yeah, Problem / I Can't Feel My Face is one number. My favorite number that Betsy is a principal singer in, I think is Blow right now. That changes. But Betsy, this is a song where Betsy's character she's written herself into the show. And she's sort of like helping Juliet and the Juliet friends sneak into a nightclub and have like a rager of a night and literally hang from the chandelier. And the way that Betsy like gets down, she does some dance moves that are do
not try at home.
That are trademark Betsy Wolfe moves that I watch off stage and on the monitor, and I laugh every time. And I just love the energy that she brings to it. And it's just fun. And it must be fun to do because you're like partying in a group of like fearsome dancers and singing a song. It's all about like letting go and raging. And then there's an explosion at the end. And Betsy is dead center. It's really fun.
Yes, if you believe it, it's dancing with a bunch of people in their 20s and early 30s and a woman who has children and goes for her night out. You can imagine it's very far from my life.
Well, so many people are going to be making their Broadway debuts, like you said, and it's going to be so exciting for you to watch this. And Broadway debuts are really special. They only happen once. And I want to ask you quickly about each of yours. Betsy, yours was in 110 in the Shade. What do you remember? How magical was that night for you?
Really, really special. And Lonnie Price, our director, had let us name our ensemble members, our character names. So instead of just, being in the ensemble, I actually, my name was Catherine Bronner. So I named my character after my late Nana, who had passed just 2 years before I got to make my Broadway debut. And she had been such a supporter. So I thought of her that night, and I will never forget when the rain came down for the first time on stage. Spoiler alert, it rains at the end of the show. And it just was this, I'll never forget it. Like you said, for the rest of my life, it was just this joyous moment of where I had been and all the sacrifices. And really, it takes such a village, and my family was so insanely supportive of helping me get to kind of where I needed to be and making sure that I had things that I need to get to that moment. And when I think back on it, it's just joyous, and I cannot wait for our friends to experience that.
That's beautiful. Stark, for you.
My Broadway debut was around the same time. It was in 2007. It was a play called Journey's End. And it was it was an incredibly lucky job for me to book in the first place. And so I got sort of thrown into the deep end of the Broadway world, but I was there with some of the kindest and most considerate, stage performers, Boyd Gaines, Jefferson Mays, Hugh Dancy, and changed my life. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It changed my life in every possible way. I didn't have a theater career before that. I had a theater education. I got my BFA in theater from USC. But I was living in LA and I was doing movies and TV and chipping away in that world. And then this job happened. And now I'm here. And it's the only, it's just a fact. I'm still deeply grateful to Jay Binder, who cast me in that job and who I will miss dearly. Plucked me out of obscurity to be that part in that special performance. What else can I say? It was a turning point in my life, that I'm so grateful for.
Just beautiful.
That made me think of something. Wait, that just made me think of something. Of course, Jay cast you in that.
Yeah.
And then my Broadway debut was Carnahan for Roundabout.
Yeah.
And Stephen Koppel was obviously Jim's assistant for so many years and then co-cast. And now I will never forget, Stephen has been such an advocate for me and immediately thought of me for this role the second he read the script. And so it's amazing how these people are so, they stay in your life and they're influential and they're just so important and near and dear. Yeah.
Well, I remember both of your debuts like they were yesterday. I was there. Seriously, they were just glorious. I spoke to both of you on your opening nights on the carpets and asked you what that was all like, because they're magical moments. And you're going to go through that with most of the people in this cast, especially like Melanie. I spoke to her. She cannot wait. She cannot wait for her.
They're not ready. They're not ready.
Oh, they're not ready for Mel.
So my final question is, what are you looking forward to the most with bringing &Juliett to Broadway? Betsy.
There is nothing like the collective experience but shared between the audience and us on stage. I say I have been so lucky. I feel like I have been a part of some of the most incredible shows with the most special casts. And there is something, and we all go on different journeys for different shows. There is something so terrifyingly electric and bonding about this experience that truly can only be experienced when you come and see it. And that joy that we all share at the end of the show is, I just love it. I don't know if it's being away for so long from the theater or getting to finally, I think, tell a story that just really lets us really share in ourselves. So it's that collective experience that I just cannot wait for again on Broadway.
I am, my wife, who I didn't tell much about the show, she came to see it on opening night. And what we've talked about a lot is that this is something that people in America need right now. This is the kind of a show that gives them an escape from the things that might be weighing them down. And there's a lot of that happening right now. This is a celebration, and it's a celebration of diversity. It's a celebration of every shape and size and gender identity. It's a celebration of real life marriages and the difficulties that all of them have. So I feel like it's been such a lucky thing for us to be the ones to do this every night and escape from those burdens, but to be the ones to present that and allow people to shake that stuff off for a little while is a really wonderful gift. The other thing that occurs to me is that we're doing this in a theater right now that is 1,900.
It's insane.
Gigantic.
It is packed.
Yeah.
It is packed.
I mean, it's like there's only a few of those in New York, and we're not going into one of those. We're going into an 1,100 seat theater. So the fact that an 1,100 seat theater is going to feel intimate for us, it's crazy. But I'm excited about it because, man, we're going to be on Broadway again. Awesome.
Well, I cannot wait to see you two once again. &Juliett is currently playing in Toronto and will begin previews October 28th and open on November 17th at the Stephen Sondheim Theater. I will be there, of course. I adore the two of you. I thank you so much for dropping by Broadway World today.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Great to see you.
Have the best time, and everybody will see you at the theater and get tickets for &Juliett. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.